Good morning and welcome to the Entrepreneur Spotlight. I am Phil Nichols, joined today by the founder, owner, El Presidente of BB Mofic, LLC, Sam Rice. Sam, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You bet, brother. One thing that we always try to do here, Sam, is we want to get a variety of people's experiences. You've been an entrepreneur. I think you were telling me a few minutes ago that BB Mofic you filed the papers in 96.
Correct.
So a couple days ago, you may make it. And, and you really actively went after your entrepreneurial journey really for the last about 20 years. Is that accurate?
That's pretty close. Yeah.
So tell the people kind of when you first started as an entrepreneur, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced just getting started? Of course, BB Mofic is a landscape design and contracting business. Sam, you're also a certified pond professional and landscape designer. You have your CPP designation. So walk us through kind of those challenges early on.
Okay. Initially, this business was kind of born out of a desire to do something other than what I was doing at the time. I was working for a trade association, had been there for a significant period of time, and knew that I wanted to transition as I got closer to retirement age, and that it would be something that I felt a passion for. And when I was a kid in high school, there were a handful of people who shaped me, like most of us, who had role models and mentors. And one of mine, actually a couple of them, were Tom Carey, head of the FFA department here, and Don Coffin, who was an instructor in the FFA department. A lot of people don't know that, but Don taught horticulture and entomology, the study of insects.
I'll be darned. I didn't know that.
Well, and we were the gold standard. We won the Farmer Stockman Trophy 4 years in a row when I was in FFA, and I kind of thought I would go to school at OSU and major, and this will shock a lot of people who know me. I was planning on going to school and double majoring in entomology and horticulture.
I'll be darned. Until
my mother told me that if I went to OSU, I'd be close enough to commute.
And so I got to get out of the house.
Yeah, and so that changed. That was a career path changing event in my life, and so. As you know, I didn't go to school at OSU, but I have lots of good friends.
Pretty big OU fan, Sam.
Yeah,
pretty big OU.
Went to school there and met some really great people, and so I ended up spending a little time in the banking business. 6-7 years. I spent some time with a couple of business partners. We owned a travel agency here in time. So I always knew from the time that I had spent sitting behind a desk in the bank that I wasn't cut out for office work.
Right.
And those that know me know that. And so I was going to transition into the landscape business kind of part-time and see how that worked. And that was going to be my semi-retirement gig. That was my plan. And one day after almost 15 years with this employer, I and another person in my department found out we didn't have a job.
Yeah.
So
happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, and that was in 2002.
Yeah.
And so I was forced to do something.
Right.
Pretty quick, and so the landscape business became not a semi-retirement thing, but
the thing.
Yeah.
So everybody has a different story on how they entered into entrepreneurship, obviously. But you said something before we came on the air that I think was really important is you got to know your why. Why are you doing this? Are you passionate about it? Is it something that you love? You obviously have that passion from a young age instilled by Mr. Carey and Mr. Coffin. They kind of sparked that flame. I know just from hearing conversations with Sam and talking to him over coffee and stuff, this guy knows more about plants and shrubs. And I mean, it's mind-boggling how much knowledge you have in that. Sincerely, we always talk about it, because we don't want to compliment each other when we're around each other.
Thanks.
So we always wait till everybody leaves and we say, "Gosh, dang, he knows a lot about that stuff." So, but walk me through. Is that just that passion, right?
Yes. The design aspect of what I do the type of work that I do is where I feel the most gratified and personal satisfaction, because there's a lot of people, we don't trim trees, we don't mow, we don't spray yards, we don't do that end of the landscape business. That's more maintenance, and there's lots of talented people that do that. And yet for me, it's being able to see a customer house or their place of business, and they have a particular goal in mind. If it's a drainage problem, and we do a lot of drainage work, and that's kind of the unglorious, so to speak, part of what we do, because a lot of times that you don't see the results of that necessarily. But if we roll into a customer's house and it's a blank slate when we start, and then when we finish, it becomes something that not only adds curb appeal, but adds value to the property. Mm-hmm. Then there's a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment that we go like, well, we helped and do that. And you get to a certain point in life where you realize that the stuff you're doing is going to outlive you.
Right.
And especially if you plant a tree, there's no greater satisfaction in knowing that sometime down the road, for me at least, that people can sit in the shade of that tree and not know that they don't have a clue who planted it or whatever. Right. But because trees are vital to our existence, they take in carbon dioxide, they release oxygen. Through the process of transpiration, they process moisture out of the soil, use it in kind of like we sweat, perspiration. Right. Same thing with a plant. And so moisture goes back in. We wouldn't have rain if it wasn't for, so there's so much stuff that's part of that. And for me, I get a great sense of satisfaction seeing a well-maintained park or office building.
We've talked about different projects around town over the years, you and I have, about green space areas and trying to do more of that type of stuff. And I know that's tough to get people to I think sometimes, especially in communities that are driven historically, like our community here in Guthrie is, it's hard sometimes for people to capture the vision of the green space. I think everybody likes the idea, but once you get deeper into the conversation, it seems to be more and more difficult. But I think people, would you agree, people that, when you look at it from the perspective you just shared, there's so many positives to planting trees, having beautiful shrubs, green space in urban areas or in downtown areas. I mean, that has an effect overall on everything, right?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the greatest honors I've had was Mark Ekus was a visionary, was the driving force behind the drugstore museum and the apothecary garden. I worked for Mark when I was in high school, and I was honored that they asked me to plant the apothecary garden. That the School of Landscape Architecture at Oklahoma State generously donated their time to do the plan, design it, do all that work, and that facility is, it was built in the mid 2000, around 2005, 2006. So it's got some age and maturity to it now. And for instance, back in the corner on the north end of that, there's a live oak tree that was planted back in the 60s when Bank first built that, expanded and built a drive-in bank there. And they planted that tree. That tree had no business living because it's in the wrong
everything about it's wrong.
Wrong climate zone, but it's still there. You know,
one thing that's cool about the garden is that, and you may or may not know this, but Ty and Jake, our sons, we were donors to, and on the clock down there, our sons, Ty and Jake, which means a lot to us now. It's Ty, unfortunately, we lost Tyler 15 years ago, and he was a young man, but it always makes my wife and I, Tanya, smile when we walk through the park because we get to see our boys' names on the clock. So projects like that matter.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they matter, and they're generational.
That's absolutely correct.
And so it's really a cool thing. Well, tell me, what do you think today as an entrepreneur, what are the biggest challenges you think entrepreneurs face today? So for somebody that's going out to start their entrepreneurial journey, or they've been in it for a year or two, what advice would you give them?
don't give up.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be fun. It's not always going to be happy at the end of the day.
Right.
There are struggles that you're going to meet, whether it be with the checkbook or getting supplies or inventory. The biggest issue for me today is finding people that will work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not just me, not just being a little.
It's everybody.
It's
it is.
everywhere.
Yeah, it is. It's everywhere.
And so don't get discouraged. If you believe what you're doing, if you have that passion or that goal, if you see the goal line down at the end of the stadium, don't give up. Yeah. I mean, keep fighting, keep at it.
Yeah. And I appreciate you sharing that, because Dave Evans, my business partner, and I, we talk every week on our weekly show about just that. You know, you've got to keep pushing forward when times are tough, whether it's economic times, labor shortage, whatever the case may be. There's going to be challenges. Sometimes no matter what you do everything the best of your ability, and maybe a customer just isn't happy. Right? It's not you. You're not on an island. That happens to everybody.
Exactly.
That's part of it. But I really appreciate you coming on today, Sam, and sharing. I want to, again, BB Mofic, LLC, Sam Rice. You can reach Sam at 405-627-3076. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to get with Sam about a project for you, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your life of experience, and also shared a couple things for us locally that none of us knew. I did not know that Don Coffin worked in the ag department as a teacher. I didn't know that.
He did.
That's awesome. Well, Sam, thank you again so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.